1, 2, 3,
Hi there, welcome to Long Distance Review, and finally it's here, the end of year list that everyone looks forward to. So this is my top 20 albums of the year 2019. Now, don't balk at the running time of this video because I've sort of included clips of the music in here as well, and also I've split it down into two separate videos. This will be video number 1, numbers 20 to 11, and then 11 to 1 on the next video, obviously, which I'm going to hopefully try and get up tomorrow, but that really depends on how things go today. It's already quite late and I haven't got very far. But anyway, lists are always fun. We always love making lists at the end of the year, but actually this year's been quite difficult. I think it's been a very good year for music, not just one genre, as you'll see throughout this list. It's not just focused on heavy metal. There's other things involved on here as well. So I think this year's been quite tough. I had to whittle it all the way down to 20, and yeah, I'm quite happy with the list. I'm quite happy with the number 1. So, without further ado, let's crack on. This is number 20. And at number 20 is Microwave with the album Death is a Warm Blanket. Now, Microwave are an American band, and they were formed back in 2012. They had 2 albums previous to this one, which, let's be honest, I wasn't really bothered about. They sort of came across as, in my eyes, a sort of standard blueprint emo rock band. But then suddenly this album got released and I kept hearing things about it, that they changed their sound a little bit. And they have. This album shows a much sort of more diverse range to it. There's a heavier tone to it, and it's very Nirvana-esque at times. They can do these subdued numbers very well, but also have these explosive, emotional outbursts and crunching guitars with sort of a darker tone to it. It's more frustrated. It sounds more frustrated than ever before. The vocals are very, very impressive on here, and like I say, there's a crunching tone to the guitar that I've never really heard from Microwave before. Here's a clip of the song Mirrors to see what I mean. They've showcased a sort of diverse range that I never thought they had. And it's really pleasing to hear a band like this, after a couple of albums and sort of being written off by myself, let's say, come back with an album that's really, really good. If you've never heard them before, or you've heard them before and dismissed them, then give this album a go. Microwave, Death is a Warm Blanket. So on with the list now at number 19. It's probably the comeback album of the year for me, and one of my favourite bands of all time. It's the Wildhearts with Renaissance Men. And now the Wildhearts have been around, like I say, for a long, long time. It's been 26 years since they released their, probably their magnum opus, Earth vs. the Wildhearts. But I call it a comeback because the amount of infighting, breakups, fallouts, drug abuse the band have throughout their career would put Motley Crue to shame. So it's great to finally have them back as an entity and get an album from them, and they're still continuing at the moment. This is one of the best albums of their career. Like I say, Earth vs. is probably my favourite album by them, but this is a really, really good album. This is a great rock album, and they always get sort of thrown in with the classic rock bands. It was classic rock albums of the year, in fact. But I think they've got a bit more of a punk edge to them that no other classic rock band have. There's an honesty about the Wildhearts which just makes them so endearing to their fan base, and certainly to me. I think Ginger Wildheart's one of the greatest British songwriters of all time, and on this album he showcases that all the way through with incredible lyrics, incredible songs, incredible hooks and riffs and choruses throughout. Here's a clip of probably my favourite song of the year, a song called Diagnosis, so you see what I mean.
In and out of dead textbooks.
we should cherish the Wild Hearts. Like I say, we don't know how long the Wild Hearts are going to be back for. They could break up tomorrow and never talk to each other again. There's that element about them which I always find so fascinating. And so yeah, if you're a fan of British rock, British punk rock, any sort of rock really, they're a band that you should really get hold of. If you've never heard them before, where have you been? But check this album out. It's called Renaissance Men. Okay, on to number 18. And at number 18 is Puppy with The Goat. Now, the Puppy were formed back in 2014, and this will be their debut full-length album. I don't really like calling it a debut because they have released 2 EPs prior to this that, make up a full album, but they've been around for a while, but this will be, like I say, their debut full-length album. Now, Puppy are a really interesting band. They've sort of been, you can sort of say they're a stoner rock band or an alt-rock band, but they have this sort of sense of humour around the whole music, which really gives it a different tone, I think, than just sort of a stoner rock band. They're not serious, let's say, but they blend these sort of Black Sabbath riffs with sort of 80s hair metal vocals at times. They have this occultist sort of attitude around their whole persona, and they have these brutal verses and huge choruses, and they've got hooks for days throughout it. They're a really interesting band. It's a mix that sort of almost shouldn't work, but it works really well, and it's a niche of their own that they've got now. Here's a clip of the song Demons, so you can see what I mean. I guess this probably is the best debut album of the year in my eyes, but like I say, they've been around for a while. If you've never heard Puppy before, go check them out. They released another EP later on in the year, which I haven't really given as much listen to as I wanted to, but Puppy are a really, really excellent band. So then on to number 17. At 17, a band called Port Noir with The New Routine. Now, Port Noir were a band I'd never heard of before until about 3 months ago when I heard about this album. They are a Swedish alt-rock band, and they were formed back in 2011, actually. They're a very hard band to genre define in a way. They have, especially on this album, they've got a very mix of old school rock with alt-rock, with pop, and also R&B in there as well. There's a lot of melody on here, a lot of melodic vocals on here, but they also have this sort of swagger about them, I feel, that reminds me of like Las Vegas Killers or the Hives, which obviously they might have taken some influence from given their homeland. Anderson, the vocalist, has this gliding vocals that I really love listening to. It sort of sways over these moody synths at times and these big sort of guitar hooks. It's catchy, it's full of energy, and it's sort of groovy and hooky. Here's a clip of Flawless, so you know what I mean. Port Noir have exuded a cool, which no other band really has this year, and I really like that. This is a brilliant alt-rock album. Go check it out. So then on to number 16. Number 16 is Nervous with Tough Crowd. Now, Nervous, they sort of started, let's say they started out as a more DIY solo punk project by frontwoman Em Foster, but they've certainly progressed a lot further than that, and this will be their third full-length album. They are a UK punk band, let's say, but there's a lot more to them, I think, than that. Their debut was a much more personal and reflective album by M, and then the follow-up, Everything Dies, I really, really enjoyed. It was in my top 20 of that year. There's catchy pop hooks and things on there. But this feels like sort of accomplishment of all that, and this feels like a real band album. If you like punk rock, catchy hooks, power pop, that kind of thing, this is a great band to try. But they're a real vital band nowadays. I think they're very important. They talk about a lot of modern social issues and modern the UK society as a whole, and these are the platform they have to speak about these very important subjects. So I think there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. Here's a clip of Flies to whet your appetite. Like I say, Nervous are a vitally important band to the UK punk scene. I went to see them live a couple of months ago. They're excellent live. If you've got any interest in that kind of music, I think Nervous will really float your boat. So on to number 15. Number 15 is a band called Health, with an album called Volume 4, Slaves of Fear. Now, Health is sort of stylized, let's say, as a experimental noise rock band, but on this album they've done so much more than that. They've incorporated elements of, experimental rock, let's say, but also synthwave and trip hop. There's pop on here, post rock on here, industrial on here, and I think it's taken them up to this album to sort of go further down the rabbit hole, let's say, the synthwave rabbit hole. And at times there's this industrial stomp and pound to it, and at times there's this dark, brooding menace around the album I really, really enjoy. It's a beautifully produced album as well. It sounds very zeitgeisty, very 2019, let's say. It reminds me of like a soundtrack to a film or something, and the artwork itself sort of echoes that feeling. Here's a clip of Strange Days so you can see what I mean.
Not that uncommon to offer a person.
Health are a really interesting band, and they're a band that are not afraid to experiment. And I think this has been a real triumph in experimentation. Okay, on to number 14. And at number 14 is Car Bomb with Mordial. Now, I don't think it's been a great year for heavy metal this year. I mean, obviously heavy metal is a very wide-ranging genre, but I don't think it's been the best year for heavy metal. But Car Bomb have released a really, really good album. Car Bomb are sort of mathcore legends, let's say. They were formed in New York back in the year 2000. This is their 4th album. They've always had a very, let's say, experimental approach to the way metal is structured and written. And this album's no different. They're very aggressive, ultra aggressive at times, very unique though. And at times it's like an assault on the ears. And Mordial can be musically challenging and baffling at times, but I think when you delve beneath the chaos, there are hooks and melodies with some clean vocals on there, which they've never really done much before. Here's a clip of the song Dissect Yourself so you can see what I mean. Yeah, Mordial have released one of the best metal albums of the year with this one. It's full of blast beats, riffs, and chaos, and I love it. It takes way more than one listen to get yourself into this album. Just keep plugging away at it, and soon you'll find these earworms just delving in. Yeah, Car Bomb, Mordial, check it out. So on to number 13. And just as I was saying, this hasn't been a great year for metal. At number 13, there is Employed to Serve with Eternal Forward Motion, another great metal album. Employed to Serve were a hotly tipped UK metal act. I say were because I feel like they've done enough now to stop being the band that are bubbling under the surface. They've gone from strength to strength on each release, I think. This is their third album, like I say, and it's their follow-up to the much acclaimed Warmth of a Dying Sun. And what they've done on this album is, maybe not on purpose, but I feel like it's the most accessible album to date for anyone sort of being introduced to the band. There's Pantera-like grooves all over this album, but also there's the experimental post-hardcore side to its Employed to Serve, which they haven't lost. It's furious, but like I say, accessible. It's hardcore, but also at times sounds like the Deftones. But Justine's vocals are absolutely throat-shredding, and there's absolutely crushing guitar tone throughout the whole thing. It's an album shrouded in misery and aggression, and I love it for it. Here's a clip of the single Force Fed. Employed to Serve are really carrying the torch at the moment for British metal, I think. And this album should hopefully push them on to the bigger stages at festivals, to bigger things. We should all get behind a band like this. Employed to Serve, brilliant. So then, on to my number 12. Number 12 is a band called Pup, with their album they released this year called Morbid Stuff. Now this is Pup's third album. They're a Canadian punk band, and this is their best album to date. Not that the other two weren't good, both Pup albums before this are absolutely brilliant, but just on this album they seem to have honed their craft perfectly. This album is full of hooks and catchy punk songs, but done in a more explosive and not aggressive, but it seems very focused, this album. It seems like they've honed their craft on this album completely. It feels like a step forward for Pup, and this album seems to be getting the acclaim that it's deserved. The vocal lines are the catchiest they've ever written before. You'll be singing them for days after, once you've heard this album a few times. And I went to see them live earlier on, and they were brilliant live, and it was great to see. They played 2 nights in London, and both nights sold out. They're really starting to get an upswelling of support, especially over here, and I'm sure back in their homeland. At times this album sounds optimistic just because the way the songs are put together, but you delve a bit deeper and it's an album just full of stories of failure and sort of hopelessness at times. But Pup are a brilliant band. Here, check out a clip of the single Kids and you'll see what I mean. Yeah, Pup are one of the best bands around nowadays and one of the best live acts nowadays. I feel they've got a real sort of momentum behind them, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with them in 2020. So then on to my number 11 and the final entry on this video. So on to my final entry of this video and the number 11, which is The Menzingers and Hallow Exile. I've loved the Menzingers ever since they put out On the Impossible Past, and in my eyes the Menzingers have never put a foot wrong. Each album is just varying degrees of brilliance, and this album's no different. They took off really where the Gaslight Anthem left off with this heartland Americana punk rock, but they really styled it into their own, not genre, but they're a very distinctive sound, the Menzingers. And as soon as you hear them, you go, that's the Menzingers. They're stellar songwriters, and they have this heartfelt honesty and approach to their work that I think endears them to their fans a lot more, and it gives them a real edge over their peers. This is probably their most musically diverse and interesting album they've ever released. Like I've always said with the Menzingers, you can put each album as a timestamp on their lives and their careers and what's going on. This album being the album they've released into their 30s a bit more, it's a much more contemplative and reflective album, and it's them looking back on their lives, but also looking at the world around them, the political landscape and society around them. Check out the song America You're Freaking Me Out as an example of this. They're consistently one of the best bands around nowadays. And if you've never heard the Menzingers, where have you been? But check this album out and check all the other albums out beforehand. They're a brilliant, brilliant band. So that's it for this first half of my rundown. And I'll be back hopefully tomorrow, if not in a few days, with my 10 to 1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.